going on, everybody? All right, we're getting this thing up and running. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Soulful Guitar Lessons. On today's episode, we are going to go over the pros and cons of reading music, of being able to have that knowledge. Does it help you? Does it hurt you? I feel like there's a lot of people that have very, very specific opinions on this matter. Um, so, as a full disclosure, I know how to read music, so you're gonna get an inherently biased discussion. But I feel very well rounded, and I've talked to people that don't know how to read music, and it's just it's an interesting thing, right? As guitar players, we feel like we're kind of outside this realm of needing to know music, and that's kind of true for the most part. Mainly that, like, some of these riffs, like an AC/DC riff is hard to write down. But why don't I start from the top? So, reading music, does it help you? Does it hurt you? Okay, does it help you or does it hurt you? Let me know what you think in the comments. Now, let's go over the cases for it hurting you. Let's go over the case for it being a bad thing. Now, keep in mind, for this channel is all about, taking intermediate and advanced guitar players and readying them for the professional world. So within that lens, within that context, how could this stuff be how could this stuff be harmful for you? And let's discuss. So one way it would be harmful is that it could stifle your creativity. Say one of your goals is that you want to be in the studio all the time and you want to be able to be creative, like like an artist. Say you want to be an artist. You feel like learning this musical language will somehow stifle what's in your head. It's kind of like, someone like Jimi Hendrix or Wes Montgomery, they didn't know how to read music. So, and both phenomenal top-notch guitar players, both phenomenal top-notch artists. So, that being said, they're probably like, I don't need to learn this, one, because already the information is here, and two, it would just kind of slow you down. It would stifle your creativity. And again, I want to hear from you guys on this topic in the comments, and I'm going to look at the comments in the chat in a second. But I just want to kind of get this stuff out there. Now, I think there's, and that's the case against it. It's just going to make you less creative. It's going to take time to learn, and you'd rather be focused on other things. And I get that. If you are trying to just really, really make music from your heart, it might feel like, kind of in the way. It's like, oh, reading music is over here, and here's my heart, and I just want to put out the music, and I don't need to worry about reading. Okay, so that's one thing. Now, I think there's the case for it. Before we get to that, there is this gray zone I feel like we got to address it, and that's really tabs. Tabs are this weird little gray zone. If you guys don't know what tabs are, guitar tabs are basically reading music but for guitar players. It's like the strings are all there, like 6 little dash lines, and you can play, there's numbers on it, and you can read the tabs. The downfall of tabs is that, or the downside of tabs is there's no rhythmic value. So you know the notes, what notes are happening, but you don't know for how long and like what the rhythm is, which is pretty important. But it's weird because the gray zone for me is like a lot of guitar players are familiar with tabs. A lot of guitar players know how to read tabs even if they don't know how to read music, right? So is that helpful or is that harmful? I don't know. What would that be? What do you guys think? Now here's the case for reading music. And before I get into that, I know how to read music, and I'm gonna tell you a little quick story of why I started. I was when I was a kid, maybe in like ninth grade, 10th grade, I was playing guitar at Guitar Center and just jamming along, doing my thing. And this what seemed like ancient guy came up to me. He might have been like 50 or something, you know. So in retrospect, not that old. Came up to me. He's like, "Oh, you sound good," you know, kind of stroking my ego. "Hey, do you know how to read guitar? Do you know how to read music?" And I was like, "No, I don't really need to know how to read music. You know, I'm a guitar player." And he's like, "Well, you should learn, you know." And what's strange is like this guy was a complete stranger. I didn't need to take any any of his advice. You know, I could just let it roll off my shoulder. But for some reason, whatever he was saying to me in that moment hit me, and I was like, okay, I want to learn how to play, like read music. I want to be uh, just very well rounded. I want to be able to handle anything that comes my way, and I think that segues into the case for learning how to read music. Is if you are a intermediate or advanced guitar player that's looking to get into the professional world, um, and just be like professionally prepared, um, especially as like a session guitar player or just a guitar player in a wedding band, at church, in the studio. Um, it's not often that sheet music will come up, but there are situations where it will come up, and just having that skill set under your belt will only add money into your pocket, you know. And that's the case for, right, and like the case for having this knowledge for being able to read music is it'll be money in your pocket, simple as that. You know, just, you know, if you get called for a wedding gig, you know, a wedding band or a corporate event, um, and you don't know how to read music, chances are you're not going to get that gig. And if you get called to do some studio work, or say you want to do big band stuff or jazz stuff, say you get called for, you know, playing on the Grammys or American Idol or The Voice, all that stuff has sheet music involved, and and really it's just money in your pocket at the end of the day. So it can be an investment. It's not like you're going to use this knowledge all the time, right? You're not going to be, as a guitar player, reading a lot of stuff all the time. And I think I do want to make a distinction here. If you guys are just joining, what's up? Say what's up in the chat. But I want to make a distinction for like violin players or string players. Their ability to read is perfect. And the reason for that is most of the stuff is scored out, you know, like a conductor. They'll have the violin part or the cello part written out. But for guitar players, you know, if you're going to play some AC/DC, you know, sounds hilarious on this acoustic. But if you're going to play You Shook Me All Night Long, chances are you just got to know that riff rather than some conductors writing it out. So, you know, that's a difference. But at the end of the day, you know, if there is a little arrangement thing and you want to be able to read what the arranger does quickly and on the fly, yeah, it's definitely one of those skills that I've found has helped me rather than hurt me. You know, just being able to ingest information quickly. And the great thing about reading music is like you don't have to retain anything, right? So say I got to learn a song, um, it might take me, I don't know, anywhere between 10 and 60 minutes to learn something. You got to listen to it a couple of times, figure it out. But if there is some music in front of you, you don't have to really take any time out of your day to learn it as in depth because it's all written out for you. So it saves you time too, especially if you have a family or, you know, you're busy working other jobs. You know, it'll just save you time in the long run. So yeah, I just wanted to come on, uh, talk about this. I'm gonna look at this chat real quick. Sonia says, "I guess it would depend what your musical goals are." That's totally right. I guess this channel is about, you know, taking everybody and equipping them with the tools to enter the workforce as, you know, a musician. And so I feel like it's my duty as a teacher and an educator to just highlight the pros and cons, and I'm weighing pretty heavily here on, the pros for it. But again, some of the cons, if you're trying to be an artist, if you're trying to be like a Jimi Hendrix or Wes Montgomery, you're trying to be that guy, it's less important, if you're trying to be Gary Clark Jr. or Kingfish, like some blues legends these days, it's less important, right? Because you call the shots, you write the music, and probably somebody else is handling the band, and somebody else is handling all that stuff. So just really weigh what your musical goals are. If you want to be like in the studio or play corporate bands or play at church or, that kind of thing, play jazz, play pop, play any type of Broadway stuff, then I would advise you to learn music if you want to be an artist and like a singular entity and just enjoy being creative. As a songwriter, then reading music probably isn't for you. So it's really, really up to you guys to decide. If you guys are still watching this video, give this video a thumbs up. And if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. If you're interested at all in any of this discussion, I expand upon it a lot in the free masterclass, which is in the description. It's completely free. You just have to go to my website, Soulful Guitar Lessons, and sign up. But yeah, all that being said, most guitar players know how to read tabs, most guitar players have that skill, and that's one of those gray zones. It's like, do you know how to read music? Kind of, a little bit, and I think that's helpful for a lot of people, right? Learning how to, somebody says, oh, it's this shape, but you don't know how to do it, and the tab comes up on the screen or, on the video, or, in a book, it's pretty useful, right? And imagine that times, 10 as far as reading is concerned. So, if you're a young student out there, and you're trying to figure out whether or not you want to learn this skill, you're in college or you're still kind of scratching your head, should I learn, should I not, should I invest the time? I would say yes. It's going to help you. So I can open up the floor to you guys. Let me know if you have any questions, thoughts on this topic. It's a fun one to discuss with, other educators. So, people have their strong opinions. You can hear the bustling of the street outside. I'm gonna tell you a quick story too. So last year I got called, and this is all within the world of reading music, right? I got called to play for Quincy Jones and like a tribute to his life up in Seattle, which is where he was primarily raised. And my buddy Greg, he was the music director, calls me and, he says, Alec, do you want to do this? I said, for sure, that sounds great. But one thing that was necessary, because it was, I don't know, a 15-person band, because, multiple singers, horns, you name it. It was the full nine. One of the things that was required, which I didn't ask ahead of time, but thank God I had the skill, was to be able to read music, right? Of course, it's Quincy Jones, right? You got to be able to read music. Excuse me. So like, it's getting there, and of course there was rehearsals, but getting there, having the sheet music written out, and say, hey, we want to just jump to measure 73. Well, you don't have to be looking around like, what's 73? Hey, do you know? You can just actually look on the page, and Again, it was money in my pocket. It was people I got to meet. I got to meet really, really great um, musicians and artists through that. Um, Robert Randolph being a great guitar player. We played with him. Incredible. Probably one of the most vocal, amazing guitar players I've ever heard. If you guys don't know Robert Randolph, check out Robert Randolph and the Family Band. I think he's on tour right now with Zach Brown as like a session guitar player. Just incredible slide guitar player. So, anyways, all that to say is I wouldn't have met any of those people, and I wouldn't have been able to open those doors or get that check if I didn't have that information and that backbone of reading music. So, just some stuff to consider. I've also, from personal experience, butchered gigs because my music reading wasn't up to snuff, and you live and learn, and as long as you just let that stuff roll off your shoulder and try to get better every time, you don't have to let it weigh you down, right? But we're human, we mess up, and that's okay. I'm gonna check the chat real quick. Sonia said, no question about reading music, but loved your video yesterday on modes. When you play, for example, a C7 chord, can you go over how you'd apply the major scale again for ideas to solo versus the modes? Yeah. All right, yeah, we can change direction. So the whole concept yesterday, I released a video on, modes, and people are obsessed with modes, and I had an alternative for understanding the modes, and I said maybe just scrap the modes and learn the major scale. That's what I do. I just learn this major scale, and then if I have to play a C dominant, I just I just alter my major scale so that I'm playing a dominant scale, essentially. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I just take the 7, I go down 1 fret, and I flat it, right? So that I have, right? So I'm thinking constantly in the key of, C. Now this is different to modes, like in that if I was saying, oh, I gotta play C7, well, I'd first have to go, like I'd have to change, I'd like, okay, pause, put the bookmark in the C, I gotta go to F, and I gotta be like, okay, I gotta play an F major scale, and then I'm gonna start on the 5, and then I'm going to play an F major scale starting on the 5, and then I'm gonna get a C mixolydian. So once again, I would have to, if I was playing in modes, I would have to go to F major, and then start on the 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I would have to play the F major scale from there, from the 5. And here's the thing, it yields the same result, but for me, the huge mental hurdle that I could never really get over, and I feel like I'm not alone here, is that I hated having to leave the key of C and like go to another key. I hated leaving, I'm still, I'm in C dominant. But like I would just be thinking, oh, it's C major, and then if it's a dominant chord, I'll just tweak one note. Right? And if it's a minor, I'll just tweak that note. It's like the major scale is the parent scale essentially for everything. And I like just being able to think of modes, or I like being able to think of everything in a singular key. Now, the second part of the question was, can you go over how you apply the major scale again for ideas to solo? Yeah, so let's say you have a song that's pretty complicated, like the changes, right? Maybe eyes in the morning sun, I feel you touch me in the pouring rain, right? This Bee Gees song, it's the first thing that's coming to mind. Well, the whole thing is in G flat major, right? There's all these chords that are happening, right? But my point is that it's not like I'm thinking, okay, I gotta play G flat major and then I gotta shift, this is a different mode, right? I gotta be in Phrygian, then I gotta be in the minor, then I gotta be in the altered, then I gotta be in the Dorian, then I gotta be in the mixolydian. Like, I'm not thinking that. And nobody's thinking that. Nobody is thinking that. And I don't know where this information, uh, started to get traction, but nobody's really thinking all that nonsense, right? Yeah, I'm just thinking it's in the major. It's a major chord, right? And I'm just highlighting as I solo just the chords. I'm highlighting the chord tones of whatever's happening. So if this first chord, it sounds like this, well, I'm gonna play something similar to the chord shapes, right? And then play up here, I'll play something similar. I'll have these chord tones in my solo. So, so it's right, you know, you know, you could, I'm like trying to just hit the notes. It's all in G flat, all in G flat, all in G flat, but I'm just trying to follow the changes in a way that that all has like a home base. G flat is the home base for everything. So it's not like, oh, I'm thinking this and then I have to leave home and I go to Phrygia and then I leave home, and that's where you get lost. That's where you get confused, frustrated. You want to like kind of rip your hair out. Is because nothing's connected, right? There's no home base feeling. There's no continuity between your lines because you don't know where home is. So that is how I think of it. That is how that's how a lot of people think of it. That's if you're asking somebody like, the video that I did yesterday that came out, it's Jimmy Bruno, literally one of the baddest guitar players ever. If you hear him play, you're like, and he doesn't think of it in modes. Joe Pass, or Barry Harris. These are the guys, Jimi Hendrix, Wes Montgomery. You talk about the greatest guitar players of all time, especially in the jazz realm. They're not thinking of it, like that. So it's food for thought. It's food for thought, guys. I'm gonna answer a couple more questions here. My computer went to sleep. So, Triple said the Recording King sounds good. Thank you. What made you decide to get it, and what type of setup did you get? Okay, so we're kind of going totally off the rails here as far as the reading music, but that's okay. This all, this is a Recording King, guys. But however, it has a rubber bridge. What is this? So let me give you some history on this instrument. This instrument was invented here in Los Angeles, and Old Style Guitar Shop in Los Feliz is the inventor of this style guitar. So what they do is they take these old parlor guitars, like stuff from the 40s. These were cheap guitars. And they do two things. This being the primary thing is have a rubber bridge installed, and it gives it an almost muted, plucky sound. So if you hear Bon Iver, Taylor Swift, a lot of the new singer-songwriters or people in that indie folk realm will use this guitar or a rubber bridge guitar to get the sounds they want. Now here's an added bonus. Check this out. It's got two inputs. It's a stereo guitar, which means there's a pickup here and a pickup back here. And what's so cool about it, there's no knobs, but you could get a very, very unique sound by plugging, 1, 2, and then miking it up. So you could potentially have two mics and then two inputs, and you get this very, very unique sound. So like I'm thinking Bon Iver, or Izzy McAlpine, that world. This is where this thing lives. So I got it in Los Angeles. I live here, at Old Style Guitar. Very, very cool guitar. I'm like looking at it. I was like, got some dust on it. I gotta clean this thing off. But yeah, it's really, really great. And here's a cool little recording tip. If you record this, say with a microphone, say you just have one microphone on this thing, pan it hard left, and then record the same thing hard right, and you get this like cool stereo image of singer-songwriter vibes. And I use this all the time because I also am a producer and songwriter here in Los Angeles, um, beyond being a guitar player. So this is one of my tools I use to arrange and compose songs. So very, very helpful. Um, Manuel said, new to this channel. Welcome, Manuel. How did you find this channel? Just curious how people find out about it, but thanks for being a part of the community. Sonia says, thanks, very helpful. Sorry to take you in a different direction. No problem. No problem. Happy to, yeah. This is office hours right now. You guys can ask any question you have regarding the guitar, regarding music, and I am here to answer them as best I can. But yeah, guys, lean on me, use me as a resource. Learn from my mistakes. So you don't have to. I got my coffee here. Pressure makes diamonds. Don't forget it. I have so much fun stuff for this channel. I cannot wait to share with you guys. I've been in this industry for a long time, and I am excited to just pass on some of this knowledge I have so that people can really get a full perspective of what it means to be a musician or a producer or a guitar player, and have the right tools at their disposal and learn the right things, the right methods, so that they can succeed in this game. Because it's, you know, it's definitely not as glamorous as you'd probably see. You know, it's not like you're on a tour bus like the 80s, you know, like doing all this crazy stuff and drinking your face off. It's, you know, it's not like that anymore. It's very it's less partying than you'd think, that's for sure. And it's you have to be very disciplined, very, very disciplined, and just know that. Sonia asks, what's the biggest and most transformative advice you ever got as a guitarist? The biggest, so what is the biggest, like, what's the best advice I've ever gotten as a guitar player? Well, I've learned a lot of lessons along the way, that's for sure. I started off as like a primarily learning classic rock and blues, got into jazz, got into soul, got into gospel. Things kind of come full circle. You know, you kind of go and you learn all these things, you come back to your roots, and you're like, yeah, I like this stuff, I like that stuff, and but you know, you feel well-rounded, right? And for me, it wasn't so much the best advice I ever got, but it was more like a revelation I had, and it might have been due to subconscious actions or words from other people. But a really, really a big thing is just try to be your own thing. Try to play what's in your heart, what's in your head, and don't try to emulate other people, because I think the beautiful thing is we're all singular, we're all unique, we are all just like a snowflake, right? And that can be used to our advantage. So I think a lot of a lot of musicians go online, they search, all right, how do I be like X, Y, or Z, my favorite guitar player? And that stuff is good, right? You want to learn that. But I think the biggest thing is pushing beyond that and like, okay, now that I know everybody else's thing, what is my thing, right? And what does that mean? So discovering that and just being able to exist in that world, and try, you know, like basically breaking out of the imitation mode and really being my own thing, being an innovator, for lack of a better term, is it's just been really rewarding. You know, I feel like when I go to a studio or I play live or I'm just playing around at home, I feel like all my ideas are my own. You know, they feel like honest, and it's not like, oh, what lick did I learn yesterday that am I gonna try to incorporate right now? So for me, like just coming to terms of like with, hey, I'm never gonna be Jimi Hendrix, I'm never gonna be Jim Hall, I'm never gonna be Isaiah Sharkey, and that's beautiful. You know, that's amazing. I take a gumbo of everything I've ever heard, and just kind of have it run through me and like filtered through all my experience, and whatever comes out is singular, is me. Um, and on this channel, I'm gonna teach everybody how to do that. You know, I'm going to teach you the method to doing that, because yeah, it's just so important, to be have your own unique voice, right? You know, I don't want to go read a book by an author that sounds like somebody else, right? I want to read a book that's sounds, you know, like their own unique voice and their own unique experience, right? So same thing with guitar. You know, it's like a movie. Like I want to see a movie that's Quentin Tarantino was singular. It's like if somebody tried to copy him, it would look weird, right? If somebody's trying to do it, you know, shot for shot, angle for angle, like copy it, no, it's not going to be good. People need to ingest that Quentin Tarantino, see it, and then be like, okay, how can I make it my own? And that's really what we're about on this channel too. Kind of a long-winded answer of kind of a journey of self-discovery, and you know, it's it's one of those things that you don't want to I don't know, the answer is very macro, right? It's not so like, oh well, I learned a G chord this way and then a D chord this way and it like changed my life. Like no, like we gotta that stuff is very helpful, right? But we gotta think bigger picture. You hear how plucky this thing sounds? It's very, very unique. Very, very cool. Very cool sound. So I'm always curious, how you guys are finding out about this channel. Do you guys just tune in regularly, um, or do you guys like find it through an algorithm? So, and if you guys are new to this channel, we go live here at Soulful Guitar Lessons every Wednesday at 10 a.m. California time. So every Wednesday we come on, we have a fun little discussion, and I open it up for little office hours, and you guys can ask me any questions. If you guys are still watching this, give this video a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. But yeah, every Wednesday we do this. We have a little like little office hours session. You guys can ask me whatever, and I usually start the whole discussion with the topic. And today's topic was, do you need to learn how to read music? If you guys are just joining, we did like a pros and cons of it, you know, and like the cons are really like, all right, if you're trying to be an artist and be super creative, reading music can hurt you, right? Like if you're like Jimi Hendrix and has synesthesia, you know, he has all these creative genius things flowing through him, and reading music is probably the last thing on his mind, right? He just wants to connect what's in his heart to what, you know, and just put it out there. You know, he's not really concerned with the exact notes. And I get that. So if you're trying to be an artist, maybe reading music isn't for you. But if you're trying to be a composer or a, you know, session guitar player, either in the studio, at church, in weddings, in an orchestra pit, in a Broadway pit, then I would push you towards learning. I would say, okay, then that's where you got to learn how to read music, because you know that's part of the job. You know, it's part of the job description. So that's just kind of a quick little brief 30-second overview of our discussion we had at the beginning. So if you want to hear my thoughts more in depth, you can kind of rewind this thing and go back and listen. So plucky. super fun. I'm curious how it sounds just with the iPhone audio. It's a super cool sound. Um, yeah, if you guys just want to check it out, go to Old Style Guitar in Los Angeles. It's a really remarkable place. They don't really have a website, and they're open from 1 to 6, I think, Tuesdays through Sundays. Really cool stuff. Really inspiring guitars. Um, that'll challenge you to play differently. Um, so, anyways, gang, I am going to sign off for the day. But if you guys, thank you for being a part of this live stream. Thank you for tuning in, for being a part of this community. We're trying to, we take intermediate advanced guitar players, we ready them for the working world as far as music, as far as guitar playing. So if that sounds like you know, please hit the subscribe button. I have a free masterclass in the description as well. If you want to check that out, gives you some more tools, some more resources to use, just so you can get better at this thing. All right, well, I will see everybody next Wednesday. And yeah, have a great week, everybody, and I'll see you soon.